Hello, welcome to my site, Take What Rings True. So, the whole idea is I share spiritual thoughts and you take what rings true. If it's not true for you, let it go. My name is Teresa Micheletti, and today's session will be questions and answers. So, you'll see me channeling, and I'm going to be answering general questions, not any personal questions. And I want to thank my friend Chris Rodriguez for reading me the questions for today's session. Okay, let me be a clear channel for the greater good. Okay.
Okay. First question is, do you know you are channeling?
I'm channeling because I am in REM, which means my eyes are like twittering, and I get information that I don't know about. So the angels explained it like they're going to send me packets of information, and then I can report what is said. Or to me, it's visual usually, and occasionally a knowing. So I'm clairvoyant and I forget what that's called, whatever. I'm clairsentient and not omniscient, but whatever that is. So yes, I know I'm channeling. If I'm being psychic, which is a different thing, then I don't always know that.
Do,
I'm like focused on, okay, I'm going to try and get this information.
do you have to videotape yourself to look back on it to know information or no?
I can keep notes. I can just make an audio. However, usually it's better if it's recorded in some way, because if I'm channeling a question, I don't always remember an hour later or the next day because it's not my information and it's not from my realm. It's from the angelic realm, the upper echelon information. I do believe, or my higher self connecting with the higher realms. And it is different kinds of information because it's not stuff sometimes it's stuff that I already know, sometimes it's not.
Okay. Do you ask yourself questions or does someone else have to ask you the questions like I'm doing right now?
I prefer having someone else ask me questions if it's going to be a number of questions. If it's just, I can ask myself one question channel to get that question answered, one question at a time, sometimes more than one question at a time, but not a bunch of questions because I can't remember what happened. I can record into some kind of recorder, but I can't remember all the questions. With I close my eyes. I guess I could do it with my eyes open. One of my friends said to do it with their eyes open, but I don't want the distraction of the room or anyone who's walking by. So I 99% of the time close my eyes when I'm doing it.
Okay. Next question. Why is our world so full of evil and hate?
We This is my understanding from spirit guides, is we were created as experiencers for God. We have a God, a creator, and our God has siblings, and our God decided that he wanted to experience something besides just being alive as a God. So he thought of us, and he thought of us having experiences that could be shared with him. And then he would get more information and more knowledge. And then we, as little cells of him, would also get information for ourselves and knowledge for ourselves. Um, so part of the experience was he allowed free will. So at the beginning of our experiencing, some people chose when they were created not to be of the light. They negated God's light. So they can be quite negative. And this planet was created. It's called Noir. It's the negative planet. Um, as opposed to Nouveau, which is only in God's dimension, not in the dimension we're in on Earth. This is getting very involved. Okay. So um Earth is a negative place, and we come here to experience, and we come here to overcome negativity and overcome negative experiences. Because negativity was allowed, then we come to experience it and see how we react, see how we overcome it. And then at the end of this schematic of lifetimes, those negative people who did not accept the light will be reabsorbed back into the Godhead and have a chance, maybe at future time, to come out as an entity again, and let's see if they're positive this time. So it's not because we're bad. It's not because God doesn't love us. He loves everyone, no matter what you choose in this schematic, whether to be positive or negative. Um, and so we have people who are not nice, who are evil, and we can overcome them. On other planets, we're more psychic. It's easier to find someone who's negative in your midst. And here they put on a charming, smiling face, as Shakespeare said, a flowering face, but they can't hold that for very long. And there's just some people who are, if you're ill, if you're hurting, then you can seem pretty mean and not be someone who's negated the light. You just happen to be not feeling good. So you can be very mean. Okay, I think I answered that.
Okie dokie. Next question is, hmm, how long will the banks be closed during this transition, next transition?
Okay, some banks in other places will not be closed. Not all banks, not all banks in the United States will be closed. That's interesting. Okay, and I got 3 months, and I got 1 month. So I think we've been told many times, the things that are happening in the changes do not all happen in the same place. Obviously, we're having fires in some places, we're having hurricanes in some places, we're having flooding in some places. It's not all happening everywhere. So the same with the banks. Some banks may not close. I do still see, though, that there's an event. I don't know what that event is. I do still see there's an event that will bring down internet. And I don't know if this is coinciding. Is this coinciding? And I'm not getting any clear answer for that.
Hmm.
So there will be a time where the internet goes down and it affects banks and institutions and stuff. There will be a time in the near future, the angels have said, please pay attention to us. They didn't say that. That's my paraphrasing. Asked us to do it now, to get money now. But I only see some places, some banks are only going to close weeks, not months.
Okay. Will, well, this question says, will medications be available during bank closures?
Okay. So, as I just said, different areas will have different effects. So, if if the internet is up and if the pharmacy is able to do the transaction for medications, there's many medications that are already there. But if they don't have the structure, say the internet goes down, if they don't have the structure on paper, They don't have a ledger that says Mary Sue takes omega-3 that's by prescription. If they don't have that information, then they're not gonna be able to give you your medication. So I would make sure you have a month's worth of medication.
Okay.
Also, infrastructure would be affected if the internet goes down. And then, say CVS ordered your medication from their warehouse, and then the internet goes down, they don't have that order. They don't have that information. They're not keeping it on paper. So it depends on what goes down and when. I don't see it happening for a long, long time. And when we make the shift, I know that it won't be a problem because I take medication every day because I have this weird anaerobic infection in my bone, which they can't do anything about, don't know. Anyway, that's aside from it. I feel fine. I'm okay. But I take an antibiotic every day. And when I asked the angels what's going to happen when we do the shift, and they said it will not be of importance. It's like a moot point because we're changing bodies, literally. We're changing, we came in with two different structures, two different essences, sort of. There's the 3D, the regular Earth person, and then there's the 5D, they call it light body, that some people call it light body. It's like you're shifting to a different uh, composition. That's why the angels are coming in, tweaking you a little bit, going out. Coming in, tweaking you a little bit, going out. Coming in, tweaking you a little bit, going out. They're changing your structure. You're changing your, I guess it's your molecular structure, the way you react to the world. So you won't need the medication. Animals would be fine when the shift takes place completely. So, and it's not going to be tomorrow. The shift's not going to be tomorrow. And each person shifts at their rate. It's not okay on June 23rd in 2025, everybody steps over this line and all of a sudden the shifts happen. No, that is not the way it is. Everyone shifts at their own rate. So there will be some people still in 3D and some people in 5D. And that's the way it is. And it's not a black and white thing, it's a transition. And it's the veil is going to drop, which means people are going to start seeing angels. People are going to start being more telepathic and things will gradually change. Okay, I got off on that tangent.
I think that ties into the question of how will our daily life be affected by the bank closures. So
Well, yeah,
I think, yeah.
it depends on which which probabilities that have been predicted happen in which order. And it's kind of hard to know that because we're not in charge. Mother Earth is in charge and she's the one who decides, okay, now this event can happen. Now this event can happen. And the angels follow through with that. There's like a skeleton of these are the things that are supposed to happen, which Journey of the Soul, Cataclysm, which Sylvia Brown published, has a lot of this stuff, but it just didn't happen 2004 to 2011. And California is not going to fall into the ocean, which is part of that scenario, but that probability was wiped away. But a lot of that stuff is still very valid, like the banks are going to close, like the uh, politics are going to change, like um, we're moving away from a centralized government.
Okay. So what's going to cause the bank closures specifically?
Okay. Okay, my impression is it's going to be a solar event that's going to take out, I don't know if it takes out all the internet or if it just takes out part of that structure. And I see some banks remaining closed, which Rahim, a spirit guide that would teach us during trans classes, Rahim said that some banks are going to remain closed because of greed, that people in power or people who want more money, their money, are going to try and manipulate things so that the bank is not opened. They have advantages if it's closed more to try and get more money out. So those are the banks you're probably going to need a piece of paper that shows I had money in this bank, because I think some greedy people who are at the top are not going to allow people to get money unless they have proof that they have money in the bank. In which case, that would be a scenario where all of that information is lost. And I know Rahim had talked about that a lot of records would be lost. So if all or most internet records are lost, how would that affect your life? And I don't think that's happening right now. I think only this is going to be a small glitch in the system, and it'll take a while to come back online because they said the banks will reopen. So in this scenario right now for this event, the banks will reopen. However, if your bank is not a bank that has the actual money they're supposed to keep on hand, then it's possible some people will not be able to get their money out when it reopens because they haven't kept the money in they were supposed to keep in. So that's why the angels said to make sure that you have cash. And they warned about banks that have no funds in actuality. It's just on paper and they're not keeping actual money. That
Okay.
question?
Yes.
Okay.
Let's see. Will will government entities like the Army, the Navy, etc., be safe during this transition?
Um, I'm getting, yes, there may be problems with some communication for a while, but like if you're on a ship or submarine, you're still pretty self-contained. So you would have enough food. Military does not pay everybody every week that I know of. So, and also they keep different kind of records. They have like the payroll guy has a record, and the guy in charge over here has a record, and then there's a computer record. There's more records available. So they, I believe, would get paid and be okay. And besides, if you're in the submarine or you're on the base, they have food to feed you and they have medical supplies and they have all that stuff. So I don't think it would be affected that much, especially if it's only like a month or a few weeks. I don't see it being affected at all. Yeah, I don't see it
Okay.
in my horizon. They show me like pictures of stuff or scenes.
Mhm.
I don't see anything amiss. Okay.
So, the question is, how exactly can we prepare?
Have cash. You need cash. If you do not have food in your house and water in your house, then you need cash to get it. If it's out long enough, it may affect infrastructure, which means, the trucking company doesn't know to go to the warehouse to get the food to bring to your grocery store. If that chain is messed up, then you'll need some cash, which means you may not be able to get your favorite box food. You may not be able to get your favorite fruit because it's not going to be delivered, but there will be food. There will be food. It's just if you have necessities, you need medicine, you need food, you need water. Um, you probably have clothes. You probably have things that you don't actually need more of for a month. So we're talking about the banking period. If we're talking about uh, the transition period, then there will be a falling away of some of these uh, big deal things that we have. Like there's not going to be as many manufacturers. There's not going to be as many um, different kinds of foods because a lot of those companies are going to fall away. But we'll still have food, we'll still have clothes, we'll still have hospitals, we'll still have doctors. It's just transitioning to a different, um, more community-minded, more loving, more cooperative society. But that's not gonna happen immediately. What did I say, 10 to 12 years is what
Mhm.
Francine said. So, it's gonna be a while. It isn't like today it's here, tomorrow it's gone. It's not like that.
Okay. Next question is, I'll ask this one. Will there ever be a different political system than the one we have now?
Definitely. Definitely. Um, it's been predicted that a president will um will have some kind of an issue, a health issue or uh maybe an assassination, something that would take them out of power and then the vice president would take over. But that's one scenario. And I've seen so many scenarios when people ask the question about the United States presidency. There's so many pathways that are possible. And it's like a domino effect. Okay, if this happens, then that path will not be followed. If this over here happens, then this path would not be followed. These are the paths that would be followed because Earth has a chart, each country has a chart, each person has a chart, and it depends on what happens which way the path goes. It's possible, very, very possible. The most probable is that the legislature will fall apart because right now they're infighting. The um, the executive branch would be restructured, and at the time of Rahim, when we were hearing those things a long time ago, he said it would be a triumvirate. There would be three people who would be the executive branch, and they would work together to be the executive branch. And it may even come to a time where the people say, enough, enough, enough. We only want people representing us who have never even been a representative before. We're tired of it. That's one probable path. So there's just anytime somebody who's psychic or a channeler says that they believe this is going to be happen, that's a probability. If it's a worldwide thing, it can be one thing that happens over here that completely changes the whole landscape of what's going to happen. But I believe so many different people have predicted, and I see in my vision of my channeling, I see that the legislature just like falls apart. And I see the executive branch changing structure, but I don't see the exact time and it's hard to be exact, but I do see there's been upheaval on the this presidential election. That scenario has changed every time I channel. Every time I channel, there's a different big probability. And then there's all these side paths. This could happen, this could happen, this could happen, this could happen. So, since the question wasn't specifically about the executive, I'm not going to go there today because things tomorrow. But I do see overall the big picture. Yes, our government's going to change if you're in the US. I see it also changing in Canada. I see it also changing in the European Union. I see it changing in the Middle East. It's like every place is transitioning so that um, when we actually shift, people are more kind to each other, more community minded, more of the people, for the people, by the people, which has not been happening. It's you elect me, and then I'm going to do my own thing and um, I have power now, and so therefore I'm going to spin my wheels and get as much out of it as possible. Now, not all of politicians are like that, but this not being able to cooperate with each other is such a problem. So we'll see what happens. It's going to shift. I don't know how. Right now, I could give you a specific answer for today, but that may change tomorrow because the probabilities depend on what's happening in the world, what's happening with each person, what's happening with the government chart. But I do know the big picture. Yes, it's going to change. Yes, the executive branch is going to change. Yes, the way the legislature or representatives, those that will change. How exactly? I don't want to say that this is exactly what's going to happen because it's all in flux.
Okay. Sounds interesting. So next question. In the Seattle area, what elevation do we need to live at to avoid the flooding that's coming by sea or that will come by sea?
Depends on where you are. If you're right next to the coast, it has to be about 5,000 feet up. If you're near the coast, I'm getting 1,200 feet, 1,200 feet up to 1,500 feet up. And I have seen the water come up. I was standing at Lake Washington and I could see where the water comes up.
Wow.
Okay, that's sort of my impression at this point in time.
Okay.
I have at this point in time.
Thank you. Next question. Is Lemuria going to come up when more forceful events happen?
Yes. Yes. Okay, I believe it's going to be when the shift there's supposed to be a rift where the two oceans meet in the Indian Ocean. You can physically see one ocean meets the other ocean. It even changes colors, and you can see a line when you look at that water. You can look it up on Google. Um, that's when that event happens. There's supposed to be a rift, like a volcanic event under the ground or, under the water there that
Mhm.
creates a lot of upheaval in that area of the world. And I don't get that it's going to happen at exactly that point, but I do see it. It's like that happens. Um, Francine, another spirit guide, said, when you see volcanoes and you're stepping over uh, breaks in the earth every time you go somewhere, It's time to move to a more safe place. Well, in this case, this rift happens and oh, and then she said it's going to happen in 3 places of the world. If you look at the globe and you see a major volcano, then you're likely to see a major volcano or earthquakes, like in a triangle. If you were to draw a triangle through the earth, that it happens in 3 locations usually. Well, the rift happens, and then I think Lemuria comes up, Atlantis may come up. So it's going to be okay, but it's not going to happen at exactly the same time. But I do see it coming up after the rift. Okay, and there's like a
Okay.
celebration. What is elemental celebrating when Lemuria comes up?
That'll be fun.
Yeah.
Okay. Next question. Um, yeah, I asked all those. Okay. So we were told to look within to be present and allow the disruption to happen. How do we act from our heart? How do we change our frame of mind?
Okay. I'm getting the when I worked with the angels one to one, it was always breathe and allow, just breathe and allow. So that's what I'm hearing or telepathically hearing in my head breathe and allow. So mainly it is we know the world is changing. We know we can't do anything specifically about wars and people being disruptive, but we can take care of ourselves and take care of our little sphere of our people around us and send out energy to everyone, send out a bubble of love to everyone, send out a bubble of hope to everyone. Every day, the angels will deliver it. But mainly, look within yourself, take care of yourself, be present to what's happening with you. Stop worrying because that's just programming for stuff you don't want and act not the intelligent person that you are and questioning everything and analyzing everything. Stop that. It doesn't help anything. Instead, act from your heart space, act from the feeling of what needs to be done that day, what you need to have happen, what you want to have happen. Go from, okay, today there's some chaos on this side of town. All right. There's chaos on that side of town. Send it some light. And then, okay, what would make my life joyful today? Maybe I'm going to bake some bread. Maybe I'm going to have a friend come over for coffee. Maybe I'm going to just go pet my puppy. Maybe I'm going to take a walk in the woods. But concentrate on you, your little community, your heart space, and you can't do anything about the changes that are going on around you. You're not in control of those. So don't focus on those because that means you're not present. You need to be present. So let that go away from you. It's like, what's that saying? Go with God. So it's like, okay, go with God. I can't do anything there except send positive energy and I'll do that. And then I need to take care of my space, my sphere, and live presently in my sphere and find what brings me joy that day. Maybe it's reading a book. Maybe it's polishing my shoes. Whatever it is, just be present with you and present with your life here in the present right now, paying attention to the now. If you worry about the future, it doesn't help. And then you're not in the present. And if you're not in the present, then your angels and spirit guide cannot help you move forward because you're not living in the present. You're over here worrying about this stuff, and that doesn't help anything. So be present. Maybe you want a new job, then think about, okay, I want my new job. You're going to interview for it. You're going to decide you want to do something for your own business, whatever it is, then step on that path. Start it and stop worrying about what's going to happen in the future. And definitely don't go to the past and relive that because you're not in the present. So, mainly, it is take a breath, breathe, and allow life to be. If you can't control it, then don't worry about it. You can send positive energy to anything. But stop expecting the yucky things to happen. Stop reliving the yucky things. Stop worrying about the future. Be in the present. So mainly, it's be in the present. Just think about right now what would bring you joy. Maybe you need to do life. So, of course, you need to go to the doctor's office. You need to go to get groceries. You need to do life things, but you can still be in the present. Be in the present. That's the way to focus on your heart and see what will bring you joy and be in the present. Not thinking all the time about stuff you can't handle, things you can't control. Because when you're in the future and the past, you're thinking, 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 thinking. And instead, be in your heart space and be in the present and just be with your little sphere of what's around you, your family, your loved ones, your puppy, your cat, your turtle, whatever it is. Okay, I think
Think
that
it Okie dokie, sounds good. I think a lot of people need to hear that. Uh, Next question is, this is the last question in the list you gave me. What else should we know to be prepared for the changes coming?
okay for the bank closures, have cash. Number one, because you can't make transactions and you can't withdraw money from the bank. So that could be a problem. Okay, so that's for the bank. Um, if you live in an area that does not grow food, if you're in a literal desert or you're on an island where food has to come into you, then make sure you have food stored. Could be a bag of beans and a bag of rice and some water. Doesn't have to be a whole grocery store. And hoarding things does not help. I know I got enough for like 2 months at least. And I didn't put it in containers that were rodent proof. And I was not at my house. I was at my sister's house for like 3 months. And uh, my roommate was in New York. There was no one at the house. So the rats moved in and ate the food. So it doesn't help. It does not help to hoard things, which I don't think it was hoarding, but it doesn't help to have too much. Just have enough. And if you do, put it in a container that's uh, not just the flimsy bag that the rice comes in and the flimsy bag that the meat. So, okay, a bag of beans, a bag of rice, and some water. That will take you a long way. And if you run out of water, remember your water heater has water in it. You can always use that in an emergency. Okay, so preparation. Uh, if electricity goes off, make sure you have a can opener to open your cans. That's not electric. Get a hand can opener. Just the basics. Just think, okay, somebody said, and I think I said this before, think about if you're going on a camping trip You're going on a camping trip. What do you need? You need cash. You need your medication. You need some water. You need some food. You need a way to cook the food, unless you're not going to cook it all, which is fine. A way to cook the food. And that could be, you can get these little tiny little stoves that are like 6 inches in diameter. And it has like a little grate on top, and you can burn pieces of sticks or even newspaper or just cardboard. And you could cook a whole meal because it concentrates the heat. It's what, like 15 or $20. I think I have it in on my website. I have things that you might need for survival. And one of the things is a link to like a little stove like that. But you don't need that much. You need food, water, medicine, glasses. It would be good to have a copy of your insurance, a copy of your credit cards front and back, a copy of your driver's license front and back. It's like the things you would have in a go bag. If there's a fire and the fire people say, all right, you need to evacuate. What do you need to have in that go bag to prove that you own the house? You have money in the bank. What do you need? What documents do you need? And on my website, I also have, okay, if you were going to report to FEMA, what do you need to have to report to FEMA that, okay, my house burned down? This is the information I have. And so mainly it's just simple: a little food, a little water, cash, medicine, glasses. What else do you need? If you have a pet, make sure you have pet food. Um, but don't go all out. You'll be taken care of. It will be okay. And remember, not everything happens in every single location. So we're not having floods everywhere. We're not having fire everywhere. We're not having volcanoes everywhere. We're not having earthquakes everywhere. Even, what was that? Santa Monica just had an earthquake.
Malibu.
Malibu, that's what it was. Yep. Okay. And I know they just had one on the East Coast, which shocked everybody. Earthquake.
Hmm.
And we who live in California, it's like, okay, fine. Earthquake, whatever. All right. Anyway, preparation is just basic. Think camping. That's what you need. And if you live in an area that does not grow food, get one of those little grow things. And you can grow some food inside if you're in an apartment. If you're not in an apartment, then create a little terrarium, create a little greenhouse, and grow some food. You can just get seeds for beans and make brain sprouts. You can get seeds for radishes, have radish sprouts. There's all sorts of little seeds you can grow, and you can eat the little sprouts. And you don't have to do that. Beans and rice, whatever. But if you're thinking of maybe 3 months out, okay, if your area was like, I know some places like in Puerto Rico, they couldn't get to people. They couldn't get water to people because the roads were like all messed up and they couldn't get there. So in that case, if you live in some place that's not accessible, that would not be accessible, then you need to have a little more. So it depends on where you're living. So if you live next to a lake, then you've got water. If you're walking distance to a lake, then you have water. So just think about, what location are you in? Most places it's just like not very much. You don't need very much. So think camping. What would you need if you went camping? And have enough for like a couple of weeks and you're good to go, I believe. And besides, people will be sharing. People will start being a community. I think people will start like growing food on their area that was a lawn. having fruit trees in the backyard. I think they should have fruit trees at parks instead of some of the other trees. That way people can just go pick the peach from the park. Okay, enough of my sandbox. No, not sandbox,
Thank you.
box, whatever it is.
That that's all the questions that are on the list that you gave me.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. And I'll see you guys next Wednesday. Okay. All right, Miss Chris.